I'm trying out a new angle. Okay, I have a degree with specialization in mathematics and economics, and last month I made a video on how I would have studied math if I had RemNote back then. Today, I'm gonna do the same thing for economics. I plan to read a 22-page PDF on economics and then take notes based from that using RemNote. Timestamp if you want to skip to that. But I want to talk about how different economics is. You know, it's not like history where it's mostly remembering facts, or at least you'll survive if you just memorize the dry facts. And it's also not like math, where you mainly write proofs and theorems and formula and maybe practice problems here and there. Economics is really more like 60% concept, 35% math, 5% facts. I made that up. That's just based on my experience. And of course, in this example, it's just introduction of economics, really. So this would be a different video if this is about econometrics. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so this is the PDF in question. It's from Investopedia. So just downloading this, then go to my RemNote, upload on the page. Just gonna call it economics for simplicity's sake. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do is look at the table of contents. To see what the structure is, I like to lay out the skeleton first. So, okay, they're all basics, and I'll make all these header 1. Moving on to the intro. Any subpoints here? Okay, seeing none, I'll just dive into each paragraph. Note that I used the question rem type, so the flashcard will look like this. You know, never the other way around. And my reasoning is that it's just so easy to be mindless and just look for keywords for a definition without actually knowing or understanding what the actual meaning is. I'm definitely guilty of this when I was a kid. It's obvious in this paragraph that these are the most important phrases or sentences. Okay, so note that I'm not necessarily explaining this in my own words, because it's the first pass. You may disagree, but again, this is just me. I'm more concerned right now with making this more readable, organizing information, and maybe using universal descriptor to further dissect it, because I don't want to be reading this paragraphs. For this one, I can either use the universal descriptor or use alias. I'm choosing to use universal descriptor instead because I'm guessing that no one would ever use the term dismal science to refer economics. It's not like if I'm talking about artificial intelligence, and then artificial intelligence and AI, it's an acronym. Okay, my first thought here is I would not want to even make a note of this because they will never ask who was the father of modern economics. No one really cares, at least in my experience. But if I'm reading a book on economics or finance or his biography, then I can tie that to why he is considered the father of modern economics. And I love that there are dates here because if you recall in my bidirectional linking video, I keep track of the important people and when they were alive, just to see if Adam Smith was in the same lifetime as Helen Keller or Mark Twain. I just find that really fascinating, but you don't have to do that. Okay, and the main point of this paragraph is the assumption in economics. So just rewriting that. Next are the main concepts. So adding header 2, scarcity, and macro and microeconomics. Okay, scarcity, I think the definition is the only thing worth noting here. And I'm choosing to use a pin reference here rather than a quote reference. So quote reference, it will actually transcribe that part of the ones that you highlighted, but I prefer to not see that whole paragraph. So I just use a pin reference. Okay, so definition and adding the universal descriptor goal. Another question rem type for invisible hand. Definition. Another definition of market economy and commanding economy. Okay, I'm gonna use the why important universal descriptor here. Okay, there is a graph, so you can actually highlight a graph as well. So just control plus drag, and that would highlight that. Also make this a flashcard. If you remember my studying math video, I showed you my old notes where I tried to make it, you know, fun and colorful. And I actually have an economics version for that as well, where I just draw some graphs. And this is PPF. It's basic, but again, these are foundation for the next topics. So it's a good idea to know them by heart and what X and Y mean. Again, just using the why important universal descriptor here, and this time making it a flashcard. I also added a pin reference for the example. I'm also using other universal descriptors here, such as problem, solution, and prose. As I'm doing the voiceover now, I realized that I accidentally highlighted the whole page, but that's okay. I'll fix that later. Another question rem type. Making these header 2. This is also when I realized that if I don't reword it, I might as well use the quote reference. Control plus drag for the graph. It seems so basic, but when you first read about it, it's probably not as basic. Plus, it's a great way to embed this graph in your brain to solidify the relationship between supply and demand. Lots of quote references here and also question rem types. Using a cloze flashcard here, which is basically a fill-in-the-blanks type of flashcard. Type out this formula, and remember RemNote uses latex. I guess I could just type it normally. That's perfectly fine. It's not like there's notation here, but I just prefer to use latex so it stands out. Again, using cloze. Changing the bullet points to numbered. More cloze flashcards and quote references. Law of diminishing marginal utility. For the rest of these market structures, I'm gonna use the how works universal descriptor. I always love the transformation from this chunks of paragraphs that I really did not want to read to this quickly scannable notes with flashcards and universal descriptors and links to tie all my other ideas together. I always enjoy this type of makeover. See you in the next one.